So, bit of a minor news story today, right? Because we're not going to do a lot of news today, but uh, this did catch my fucking attention, right? Because I heard this at work, so I wasn't watching the screen, and I was like, "What the hell is going on here?" That sounds like a fucking that sounds like a badass story to tell, and I had a fundamental misunderstanding of what was going on at the moment, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna tell my kids the misconception that I had about this story and tell them it was true, because that shit's fucking funny as shit. So, here we go.
Texas middle school teacher hero rushes out naked with gun to stop a savage from attacking a 15-year-old girl.
See, I heard naked, and I'm like, this man fucking busted out of the house, right? Busted out of the house, fucking dong in the wind, right? Fucking Newton's cradle a clacking, right? With a fucking gun. Like, get off that. So I'm like, what? This man, I thought this man was channeling his inner ancestral berserker, right? I had that image in my head, and I was like, that is a fucking great image, actually, right? He doesn't actually look all that different from what I kind of assumed he would look like, to be perfectly honest. But if you pay attention to the censored part of that picture on screen, you will notice he is in his underwear. He's not naked. I'm like, not that this makes this any less heroic. It doesn't, right? He's still charged out with a gun to stop a rape from happening. Again, one of those things where it's like, yes, who's doing the thing? Oh, is it them? It's always them, boo-boo, right? It's literally that moment for part of this. But, aside from that, just... Oh, man. I was so disappointed when I found out he was in his boxers. I was like, that's just such a funny fucking image. That is just such a funny fucking image. Oh, my God. But anyway, long story short. Yeah, so this guy busted out of his house in his underwear with a gun and stopped a sexual assault from happening. Let's see. Hold on. Philip says, Amalgamite did a reading on the paper. Ooh, nice. Let's see. Kun says, going to be honest, anytime someone on a video starts going over religious stuff, my neural net starts buffering for all that I should care a bit, considering my sister went Catholic. I mean, I get it, right? It's just not interesting to everyone in the same way. Let's see. I just can't muster an iota of caring about religious stuff. I get it. Again, it's an apatheism, right? It's a bit of an apathy about religion. Wait, what was busted? The door, right? Oh my God! Yes, doctor. Guns glocked, dong out, right? He was waving two guns, right? Could you fucking imagine? It's like, sir, calm down. Oh my God! Fucking hell, mate. So, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, Kirsha reads this whole thing. It's just, I wanted to comment on this just a little bit, because it's like, I was so disappointed when I found out this guy wasn't going full berserker, like running into the midst of battle naked for the most part. I'm like, damn, that would have been such a story. But it seems he either sleeps in his underwear, or he had the time and speed to just put some underwear on before running outside. Not as funny a story, but still a funny story, but still like a funny way to react to this. Let's see. Kuhn says, if I had a nickel for every time a man ran out of his house near naked chasing someone, between this and William Afton's actor, fair enough.
A brave teacher in Harris County, Texas, heard screams late at night and spotted a thug beating a 15-year-old girl on the ground outside of his apartment, trying to rip her clothes off after following her from a bus stop. David Garza didn't hesitate. He grabbed his pistol, ran outside, pointed it at the predator, and ordered him to stop. The terrified girl screamed, "I'm 15, help me."
Yeah. Again, the man just, like, a good guy with a gun stopped a fucking, sexual assault from... Well, actually, it sounds like it would have been more than just a sexual assault. But... it turns out a good man, a good, almost naked man with a gun stopped a, sexual assault. It turns out the good man with the gun narrative turns out to be true almost every fucking time, right? Keanu says, I'm not into religion, but this Gnostic stuff makes for fun ideas for stories, and no wonder it's been used a lot in Japanese stories. Oh yeah, it's used quite a bit. They usually have more of a Mahayana inflection to it, because like Mahayana is a bit of a Gnostic. Well, I mean, Buddhism itself is heavily Gnostic, but you know, it's a more esoteric version of Buddhism, right? So there's a lot that can be pulled straight from that. But there was a time when Japan was really interested in Western religious traditions, and that included things like Kabbalah, which is why you find Kabbalistic imagery in like Evangelion and in like Full Metal Alchemist, and Kabbalistic references and things like Razafan and all that other stuff. And you also see, for example, references to Hermeticism all over Full Metal Alchemist, because it turns out most alchemic, practice was heavily influenced by Hermeticism, and it's just all over the place in like anime of the time. To be perfectly honest, Manichaeism was another thing that was also apparently really interesting. Really interested the Japanese at the time, but you know, you definitely see that mostly in things like Devilman. Kun says Persona 5 kind of hit me good. That's fair.
You're not gonna fucking square up with a psychopath who comes out naked with a gun.
Again, that's psychological warfare right there. Why do you think people sometimes like the reports of like, again, like people be like, these people are fucking mad, right? Of berserkers in like the Germania, right? Just running into battle naked, which by the way, could mean like actually physically naked, but it also could mean just unarmed, right? That is another thing that it's sometimes just naked in that context sometimes just means unarmed. Like in the case of like the story of Beowulf, right, where Beowulf decides to fight the Grendel, yeah, it was Grendel. Decides to fight Grendel naked. He's probably got clothes on in the story. He's probably fighting him without weapons because the monster doesn't have weapons, right? But yeah, I digress, right? But yeah, this man channeled his inner fucking berserker, and absolutely, I personally think he would have been justified in putting a cap in that ass, to be perfectly honest, right? To, again, like, put the dog down on the spot, as you know. But I understand that he may not live in a state which, oh, well, actually, he's in Texas. He probably could have gotten away with it if he decided to do that. Hitting my 90s gestation hard there, right? It's like a giant muscled man comes running at you nude. You gonna run? Yeah, I'm gonna assume the guy might be on meth or something, right? Or he might be schizophrenic if that's the case. If that's happening to me, to be perfectly honest, I'm not gonna fight someone with either fucking drug or or retard strength. To be perfectly honest, never challenge the man who lets it all hang out.
All right. That's horrifying. Nobody gonna fight that guy. The attacker let go of her hair immediately and fled when he saw armed resistance. This is what real men do. They act, they don't just film. One good guy with a gun stopped a monster from destroying a child's life.
This is a bit of an unfair comparison as well, because the psychology of this and like what you're complaining about is also like wildly different. Almost every time it's a person recording, it's also in a large crowd, and you have the issue of the bystander effect where everyone else assumes someone else is going to do the thing, right? And that includes people who are often like this guy, who, if it was only them, would actually step in, right? So as much as like we got to remember that, like, again, these things like things don't happen in the abstract, they happen with background context. And yes, there is actually more about this to say than just, again, oh, stop recording and actually do something. No, the recording part is also kind of important, because if no one's recording and then something happens, then there's no way to vindicate the good guy for doing the good guy thing. If people to say, if a bad actor decides to potentially try to hold them responsible for something that wasn't their responsibility, right? Let's see. Kionel says, I'm talking about berserkers, but then again, they may be on something. Well, they probably did take drugs. Kun says, not in Florida. I trip over those on the commute. Fair.
Heroes like this teacher are out there protecting our communities when seconds count.
Yep.
Now let's get this out there everywhere and help police identify the attacker.
Agreed. Like, obviously, whoever was doing this, needs to absolutely go to prison for a long time. This is fucking unacceptable, and they need to actually, again, be held to account for the thing that they've done. I'm just saying, fucking absolutely wild story here.
True. I personally think it looks like this guy has boxers on, because it looks like part of his torso is blackened behind the blur. So I think he might have had boxers, but can you imagine just like the fear on a bad guy's face if a guy bursts out of his house, dick swinging, gun locked and loaded? That's horrifying. That's a real man right there. He's like, you put down that
teenager! Oh my god. Oh my god. Man, that's such a good story. I wish that was actually what happened. Holy shit. That would have been such an actual... Could you fucking imagine? Oh my god. Still a hero, right? Still did the right thing. Still did what needed to be done, right? But, oh my god. Would that have been... Would that slight tweak of facts just made this a more compelling story? Oh man. Yes, I very much am. I didn't realize until she said this because again I was listening to this at work and I heard her talk about this and I was like, wait a minute. I thought someone said that this man rushed out there naked. In your boxers may be in a state of undress, but that is not a state of nakedness, to be perfectly honest, right? Like, nakedness is a type of undress, but it is not the only kind of undress, right? You go into a battlefield without any kind of like bulletproof armor. You're in a state of undress of some kind, right? But you're not. No one would describe you as naked, right? I'm just putting it out there, right? I was lied to. The story is still great, but I was absolutely lied to. I was not sold what would actually happen.
Not in my house, buddy. Please have boxers on. He's just got that much southern True. You know, he might be a Wookiee.
Oh my god, he's got. Look at all that coarse hair, right? Goddamn. It could have been bad if he had been truly nude in a blue state, but a red state you could consider a pass. I mean, if you happen to be naked when you run outside, you save someone from being raped, right? I think the cops might actually just give you a pass. I'm not going to test that theory out myself, right? I'm going to put on boxers if I have to, at least boxers if I have to do something, right? But that would be an interesting thing to see. It's like, in a red state, hypothetically speaking, when seconds matter, do they care if you're fucking, like, absolutely bearing it all to the wind if you could stop the bad guy, right? Oh my god. Again, I just find this to be intrinsically fucking humorous. Holy shit. Let's see. Can you imagine if the story went to where the last thing the criminal saw alive was his... That's what I said earlier. I was like, calm down, man. Calm down. Oh, man.
Hawks out, Glocks out. Boy, let's go. True.
There's another one, Doctor. You had yours, but the chat had theirs too. Cocks out, Glocks out. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
True and fucking real. The UK would arrest the guy with the gun and hunting down the PDF to apologize to him. Yeah, there was another thing in the UK that I had in tab somewhere.
Okay, maybe I'm mixing up this story with another story too, because I thought that this one was like, I thought that they said in this story that the guy doing the attack was of a particular religion. And apparently they didn't say anything about that in the story. So I might be confusing this story with a different story that I also heard recently, because I'm going to be honest, I don't really have anything to do other than listen to, like, YouTube news coverage all day. So I hear a bunch of stuff and it gets kind of, like, crossed in the wires of my brain sometimes.
Where, like, there was some kind of, like, a beatdown on a guy and they arrested the victim and then they were like, actually, we did nothing wrong. We did nothing wrong. Also, stop sharing the evidence of the video. Yeah, right? Yeah, fucking right. After the
That might have actually been the thing I was confusing it with. That actually might have been the thing I was confusing it with. Holy shit! But yeah. I just wanted to. Okay, hold on. I forgot that this was also in here. How long? This isn't very long. I might as well put that in there. Yeah, today was just an interesting Kirsche day, to be perfectly honest. Talked about, like, human meat being found in kebabs. It talked about fucking, again, birth tourism is apparently a thing now again. We talked about fucking man running out into the open naked to defend someone from being raped, right? It's just fucking interesting news day from people who listen to, you know, the only trusted source in news, right? I didn't really care too much about, like, the Mexican restaurants now charging for, like, salsa and things that were free previously. It's like, yeah, these people in power, you know, the people, you know, again, writing all the, you know, taxations and regulations and the tariffs and all this bullshit, right? Making it, you know, causing inflation. This was an inevitable thing. Eventually, the company can no longer take the hit for the convenience of the customer. And again, it's because of the inshitification of the economy. But holy shit, I forgot how long she was on this subject.